We're back. You know, when you don't actually deal with something on the internet and deal with your issues on the internet, they never really go away, do they? It has been a year at least. My first stream for part 1 of this was on May 25th, 2020. That's when we got to read the first blog. We are now on part 2, and the date is June 27th, 2021. For anybody who doesn't know, Katie Joy Paulson attempted to attempted to slap Steve McRae with a harassment restraining order. She was granted an ex parte order for safety reasons, as anyone does in her area, with a temporary restraining order until things can be heard in court. Well, it never went to court, as the matter was dismissed before it ever reached a judge, and a NDA was signed. The NDA we read through over on EKC People Suck, so I definitely recommend going to check out Aaron's channel. It's fantastic. We went and read it out there. I'll probably cover it again over here at a later date, but with that NDA being expired and completed, it looks like Steve decided he wanted to write another blog regarding the situation, so we're going to take a look and see what he has to say about this. And I'm not gonna lie, I mean, the internet is forever. It doesn't go away, so sorry, not sorry. I don't know what to tell you. So this was posted today, probably at like some absurd time in the morning. Rude. And we're gonna take a look at what Steve had to say in this blog. On May 21st, 2020, I posted on my blog an entry titled "My Truth, My Story, and Being #MeToo'd" by vlogger Katie Joy Paulson. 1 month later, I had an ex parte temporary restraining order, TRO, issued against me for no other reason other than to attempt to silence me from telling my story. My blog is mostly about philosophy and some science, but that entry became the most read blog on this entire site, and is currently sitting with 6,354 views at the time of my writing these words. To compare, one of my favorite entries, an essay titled "Gumballs and God," is only sitting at a 3rd spot with 2,103 views. 3 times as much about a topic that isn't even what my blog is about, but my story was getting out. Or so I thought. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to get my story out to make a big enough difference. Even though my entry was well documented and as factually correct as humanly possible, I had reviewed it over and over to ensure every word in it relayed my story, yet it still wasn't enough. The facts are, I am a single, cisgendered, Jewish, non-practicing, heterosexual, middle-aged white male, so I have to at least, in some small way, wonder if anything I say, no matter how factually accurate or fastidiously well documented, in today's online culture, it doesn't compare to the mere allegations of a woman. No matter how non-factual or devoid of evidence their allegations happen to be. Those 6,354 views of my part 1 took over 1 year to amass, and during that period, no one really asked me about anything. Very few readers even came to ask me about my side. Of course, my close and dear friends knew the truth, some of whom, it pains me to say, are no longer with us. Bools in the chat. But in addition, some whom I thought were my friends never asked me about anything. I realize now that they never cared, and it is a bitter pill to swallow. But worse than that, some actually started to believe the unsubstantiated allegations, even though there was never a shred of evidence to support any of them. Nothing. Not a damn thing. Remember, many of these people I thought were friends considered themselves to be part of the skeptic community on YouTube. Yeah, right. Gotta have to throw the bullshit flag on that for sure, as I am not even remotely exaggerating when I say there was no evidence of any sexual harassment whatsoever. I am telling you straight up, in no uncertain terms, quite literally, in the strongest sense of the word, there was no evidence submitted to the court of any sexual harassment. None. Nothing. Zip. Nada. I mean, legit nothing. Not a single thing was submitted by Miss Paulson in regards to her allegations of sexual harassment. Guess she figured she didn't have to have any, as she probably figured I wouldn't file a response and the court would just go by her hearsay affidavit. I will be covering that affidavit later. Which wasn't even notarized, but in MN, which I think is Minnesota, is not required to be. After all, I don't have a million subscribers to explain my side of things. I didn't have the ability, like Emily Artful did, to take on a 6-digit subbed YouTuber that wielded power over an army of stans, as she very effectively did with Creepshow Art. Emily, with precision and evidence, showed that she was the actual victim in her story and that Creepshow Art was the actual bully. Something that I personally knew firsthand Creepshow Art was, but no one cared when I raised concern about Creepshow Art's online bullying. It was okay, I was just a boomer. No one wanted to hear about my experience with Creepshow Art, nor her response to my criticism, which was not to address my concerns about her behavior, but instead make a video about me that got her over 317,000 views. My best video is at about 82K. I quickly realized it was just about the views to Creepshow Art, and I wasn't interested in that childish drama and left it at that. But did anyone care she got the information wrong? Did anyone care she deliberately took screenshots out of context for drama to try and character assassinate me? Nope. It's YouTube after all, right? The place where alternative facts reign supreme, unless you have a bigger and badder channel, that is. And or at least a bigger, badder story to tell. 2 boxes Emily Artful had checked off in deep, indelible ink, and huge props to her for getting her story out, as she had been put through hell. In fact, it is in part because of her video that I am currently writing part 2 of my story. More specifically, it was more me finding out that Without a Crystal Balls tried to, once again, insert herself into someone else's story, to use someone else's pain for her own benefit, to use trauma for tea. To try to relate to Emily and make it appear that she too was a victim of Creepshow Art. Reality check here. Miss Paulson went to Creepshow Art to get her to make a video to character assassinate me, which Creepshow Art did, but who also said that she wasn't going to do Without a Crystal Ball's bidding. I don't know exactly how that works, nor much care, but she also made one about Without a Crystal Ball as well. And at least on that one, Creepshow Art got things right. I guess even a broken clock is right twice a day and all. As for me, I am quite aware that it was by far a quite modest hell that I was put through by Miss Paulson in comparison to Emily's 10-year-long stalking ordeal by Creepshow Art. But, as I noted in my part 1, it was my story, my truth, or what I like to refer to as the truth, which made it personal to me. So going back to the TRO that Without a Crystal Ball's filed against me, I wanted to fight Without a Crystal Ball's allegations in a court of law. I wanted my day in court. I wanted a judge to hear me. I wanted my voice to be heard and to speak out against being falsely accused of multiple crimes and unethical I don't know this word. Damn it, I was doing so well and in such a groove, and I got to a word I didn't recognize.
Infelicity.
Infelicity. A thing that is inappropriate, especially a remark or expression. I was accused of multiple crimes and unethical infelicities, which my accuser was levying against me. So I retained legal counsel and filed, as was my legal right, a response requesting a hearing. Needless to say, no hearing ever transpired. No day in court took place. No day for me to explain how I was the victim in all this to a judge. Why? Because Without a Crystal Ball's lawyer did not want her client appearing in front of a judge. Apparently, perhaps unbeknownst to Miss Paulson, anything you say in an HRO, hearing restraining order, can be used against you in any other legal matter. At the time, Miss Paulson was attempting to sue another YouTuber by the name of Sherelle's World, and she was going to try to somehow include me in that lawsuit. I actually liked Sherelle and thought she was a friend. However, she blocked me and completely disassociated from me when she found out there was a potential defamation suit Miss Paulson was considering filing against her and myself. I'm not sure why this bothers me even to this day as much as it does. It shouldn't. Perhaps because Sherelle never even bothered to get my side of things, never wanted to discuss anything. Sure, it was completely her choice. I never even tried to reach out to Sherelle after she blocked me, contrary to some alternate facts some people were putting out there. Nor at any time did I ever turn on Sherelle, nor make any deal with Without a Crystal Balls against Sherelle. Again, contrary to some alternative facts some other dishonest content creators were putting out. I seriously doubt Sherelle will ever read this blog, but if she does, I begrudge her not. And if she ever reached out to me, I would accept. Sorry for the massive tangent there, it was just something I needed to get off my chest for a very long time. Okay, back to my story. So, from what I was told by my legal counsel, Without a Crystal Ball's lawyer didn't want her client going in front of a judge where her client's story was so utterly manipulated and controlled to the point of being complete caricature of, I thought caricature had an H in it, caricature of the actual facts, as it could harm any further defamation suit she brought forth. And of course, the same would apply to me. Anything I said in an HRO hearing Without a Crystal Balls could try to find a way to use against me in my counter-defamation suit I was planning against her. Which makes perfect sense. I already knew that Miss Paulson had grossly distorted the facts. They weren't facts, as facts by definition having to be true, to obtain her TRO by making it sound as if her and I were in the same room together when this supposed sexual harassment occurred. By room, she means vMix call we used for our show, the Non Sequitur show, which is similar to a Zoom call, just much more expensive, to a judge. However, the sense of the word room means an entirely different thing, implying the same physical proximity. On her claiming that I, quote, took pictures of the victim without permission, trying to make it appear to the court I was physically taking photos of her, but the fact was she meant more took photos of her off the internet and used in some of my posts. To a judge, however, there would be quite a bit of contextual difference in there, right? She made it sound in her TRO request that I had literally been going around taking photos of her IRL. Yup. Not a great thing to defend to a judge you're trying to convince of some guy off the internet is harassing you now, is it? But at least her lawyer realized that as well. For anybody who is unaware, Katie is in Minnesota and Steve is in California. My lawyer was convinced that Miss Paulson was far more concerned about her image than her safety, as anyone in their right mind. As anyone in their right mind, which does exclude a number of people I have dealt with. Knows I am absolutely no threat to anyone in any capacity whatsoever. Without a Crystal Balls played on people's fears and wants to fill in the blanks with conjecture, supposition, and hypothesis when they are not privy to the facts, especially the fear all women have, and rightly so, of being sexually harassed. Had my testimony gone forth, I am absolutely convinced that since it would have been a matter of public record, that it would not have looked good for Miss Paulson to have clearly abused not just the legal system, but the entire #MeToo movement for her own agenda to silence a critic. Well, we know how well that's been going for Amber Heard, don't we? but my legal counsel assured me the right course of action was to enter into an agreement, NDA, with Miss Paulson to best set me up for a clear defamation suit against her, for not just false allegations of sexual harassment, which I can no doubt prove in a court of law affected my channel, my reputation, and my income, but also including the false allegations of fraud and medical fraud as well. See Part 1 if you're unfamiliar with that story. Since you're on my channel, guys, I'm pretty sure all of you know about that. But KJ accused Steve of fraud and medical fraud right when the Non Sequitur Show stuff blew up. Essentially, she was assisting Kyle. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your point of view, I guess, Miss Paulson did not follow through with her defamation suit against Sherelle nor myself, but rest assured, I had all of the facts and evidence ready to go for a significant countersuit, as anyone can objectively look that there was no harm to her reputation nor to her channel by any of this, but her false allegations were most certainly harmful to me. This I most assuredly can prove by the vicious and erroneous attacks that I still receive even to this day by people who, for whatever inexplicable reason, still believe without a crystal ball, contrary to the objective fact she had no evidence at all for her slanderous and libelous claims against me. It was quite obvious that her story was completely fabricated. See again, Part 1. So, our lawyers reached an agreement. However, Miss Paulson's lawyer wanted it to be open-ended, but I insisted it had a 1-year expiration date, and was not going to budge on that. And I didn't. But they did put a caveat that the NDA would be extended if there was a pending defamation lawsuit against myself and Sherelle's World, which I will speculate here. Speculation is fine when based upon reliable information and not presented as fact. Without a crystal ball, figured it would be long extended by that provision, and to me sufficiently explains why she capitulated to a year termination date. The agreement was basically neither of us could defame each other, but either one of us could do commentary on each other, especially if there were unfactual things being said. If there was never a time that I could not talk about Miss Paulson, I just chose not to for a variety of reasons, none of which are of importance, nor even relevant now, but the fact is that I could have, contrary to the narrative that I could not, contrary to the misinformation that I begged for an NDA to avoid getting an RO, restraining order, contrary to the misinformation that I couldn't even say her name, contrary to the misinformation that I even had an RO in the first place, and that I never had, contrary to the misinformation it was somehow filed under VAWA, which is Violence Against Women Act. It's a protection thing for women in Katie's area, by the judge, which wouldn't even apply to me, as I never even been in the same state as Miss Paulson, and certainly not any relation to nor domestic partner of hers. This is a protection act specifically for women that are in close relations to people that are assaulting them. So Katie, again, trying to take advantage of protections put for women falsely, which is harmful to victims, obviously, and harmful to any kind of legal or supplemental provisions and protections for those people. Legal stuff here. An ex parte TRO is a preliminary injunction that is done without representation, and from what I gather in Minnesota, is almost always granted as a precaution. It only converts to an RO. In this case, it would have been a 2-year RO, called a post-injunction if the person receiving the TRO does not request a hearing, which I did. This means I never had an RO, as we never had our hearing for the restraining order. Legally, I had a TRO which was dismissed. There is a massive difference between a TRO, which is granted ex parte based upon unsupported hearsay and as a precaution, and an RO where the hearsay must be actually backed up with evidence. 1 year later, our NDA expired, and it seems nothing has changed. If anything, it's worse. Without a Crystal Ball has become a juggernaut, amassing a cadre of stans who will believe any word she says. Facts and evidence be damned. If no one listens to me then, there would be even less of a chance that they would know now. So this is where I hope my story ends, as I really do not want to write a part 3. I have moved on, trying to put people like Without a Crystal Balls behind me, as I have done my tour of duty. I have sounded those warring claxons. Claxons? I don't know what a klaxon is. I assume it's like a horn. I'm looking it up. What's a klaxon? Oh, an English band. Oh, that's a band. Is there like something that's not a band? A karaoke show? Meh. Neat. I learn new things all the time. I was one of the first, an OG as it were, to experience firsthand exactly what Without a Crystal Balls is capable of. And as you remember, Without a Crystal Balls got her YouTube start on my show with my former partner, Kyle Curtis, the guy who stole $60,000 and committed fraud, who will soon have an arrest warrant out for civil contempt with additional criminal contempt charges to be added. See Death of the Non Sequitur show on my channel here. If you guys want, you can also catch up on that, because I read through all of the litigation. I will be reading the follow-up litigation after the hearing that just happened, as soon as the paperwork is done being filed for the, as soon as the paperwork for the arrest warrant is filed and posted. I'll get everybody caught up. That is the story I want to focus on going forward. Even though I have a judgment, I still have a long way, Oof. That is the story I want to focus on going forward. Even though I have a judgment, I still have a long way to go with my legal matters with Kyle Curtis, and I think he means to get justice. Oh, and get justice. I don't know. So this is probably all I'm going to say about Without a Crystal Ball. And if people want to know what happened, it is in part 1 and now part 2 here. I believe Without a Crystal Ball has gotten as big as she is because no one listened to me before, and I doubt anyone who can make a difference is suddenly going to start listening to me now. I'm still the same single, cisgender, Jewish, non-practicing, heterosexual, middle-aged white male. I'm just another year older. Steve McRae. It says a lot about sort of the stress and the social thoughts on a situation, and whether or not somebody is getting listened to based on their sexuality or their gender or their skin tone. Because men who get falsely accused of sexual harassment get put in a really, really bad place. Not only do they get put, and I'm saying falsely accused, I mean men who get accused truthfully get put in an even worse place, but people who get falsely accused get put in a weird position where if they speak out, they're in trouble. If they don't say anything, they're in trouble. Their reputations can be sullied in perpetuity, depending on how they handle the situation. A good example of that is Vic Mignogna. Some of the stuff with Vic Mignogna is like, I don't know whether or not he's actually has or has not done some of this stuff, but the way he handled the situation ended up being so poor that it did not work out well for him. There was a lot of things going against that guy. Steve talked about this a year ago and was talking about how problematic her behavior is. Without a Crystal Ball, Katie Joy's behavior has been for a long time before this ended up happening. He put in a lot of legwork to try and help people who got stuck, or people who got taken advantage of, or people who were getting attacked by her, to be like, hey, listen, she's like this, you need to look out. I remember when he was having conversations with Sherelle before Sherelle backed off, when Sherelle first came to him to want to talk about this. And he had told her, and I had told her, Katie will come after you. She will use by any means necessary. You need to be ready, and you need to. And she was like, "No, I'm ready. And then she backed out. And you know, I don't fault her for backing out, but it's one of those "we told you so" kind of situations. If you're not ready for it, you're not ready for it, and you need to be ready for it if you're gonna go after stuff like this. I don't know. I'm gonna catch up on chat real quick. So let's see what you guys have been saying, because I was zoning in reading this. Hello, everybody. Well, anyway, yeah, I think it says a lot about the certain situations that it's sad that Steve sort of feels this way. It's sad that he feels like nobody listened to him. It's sad that Without a Crystal Balls is still able to go on being the thing that she is, and doing the things that she's doing. That she's still just perpetuated and gotten worse and worse and worse. It's sad that there are more and more people supporting that kind of behavior, mostly because they don't know. Because, you know, why would we listen to a cisgendered white dude who is, I don't know, old, I guess. It's a shame. It's a shame, but who knows? Maybe this time a couple more people will catch on, and maybe somebody who is big enough to actually make a difference will pick up on the story and take a look. So, like and share, check out the blogs, check out part 1 if you're interested in part 1, and, you know, actually share this around. Actually see if you can get the word out to cover some of the nonsense that's gone on, because I have seen this, like, the screenshots, and I've watched a lot of this happen. I've had KJ come after me. Not that I really... Hi, what up? It's me, your boy. It doesn't affect me exactly the same way that it tends to affect people, but I mean, we get harassment on Twitter. I was just looking at one today, some guy coming around, some sock account coming around making accusations and trying to drag a conversation that completely unrelated into a different part of the something completely different. When harassment allegations are judicially proven false, it should be axiomatic that the false accuser is guilty of harassment and defamation. Yeah, I would agree with that. There's definitely a conversation to be had about if there are false accusations that are put out, what should the consequences be for those false accusations? I've had some people say that that the maximum penalty that they would have gotten if the accusations were true ought to fall onto the person who is making the accusations then. I'm not sure about that, but there's definitely conversations to be had. I do have this Goblin plushie. I did not design it. This was made by Joe Cat. I love these little guys. They're adorable, so if you want, you go check out Joe Cat's channel. He's got cute little plushies, and I got one. It'd be fun to make my own Goblin plushie, but I'm certainly not big enough to be doing something like that. But anyway, let's get out of here. It was a grand old time. This is kind of a sad, bittersweet sort of blog, and I'd like to see more coverage of it. I want to know what other people think. I'd be curious to know. But I'm out of here. This was a quickie. I have to go finish off making my Kyle's Greatest Hits video. That'll be fun. I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.